guys, welcome back to the homestead. So tonight for dinner I'm doing a chicken and chicken sausage gumbo, which is kind of nice. That way I can make it and we can eat on it for a couple days. But in that recipe, of course, I don't use any of the chicken skin and I don't use any of the bones. And I don't know about you, but the chickens around here come with bones and skin on them. So it's one of those processes where I have to kind of deconstruct. And what I like about this is I get a lot of bang for my buck, right? Because I take out and I strip all the bones out and I throw them in a baggie and I throw them in the freezer until it's time to render them down and make bone broths and stuff like that with them. And then I also get to pull the skin off of it and make something with the skin as well. And then of course the chicken itself is going to go into the gumbo that we're going to eat on for a couple days, right? So you can get a lot out of this process. And I'm probably going to do a video on the gumbo at some point. But what you're going to do is, this is called, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's kind of like, they call it Schmaltz or something along that effect. But what you're doing is you're rendering down your skin and your fat off your chicken. And then you're turning it into this lovely golden oil that you can use for other things. Phenomenal for sauteing vegetables. If you wanted to add more flavors and stuff to it, depending on what you're going to use it for, you can throw onions in this as well. So I'm already kind of preheating my cast iron pan, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw our chicken in, and then along with the chicken skin, we're going to just add a little bit of water. And what we're going to do is we're going to slow cook this down until, let me grab a fork. I'm going to slow cook this down until all of this water evaporates and the skin has broken down. And then you get like these lovely little crunchy bites. For my keto fans, we all know we love our chicken skin. Fried chicken skin is phenomenal. Don't care what anybody says. So you're just going to kind of take this, bring it up to about a medium-high heat, and let this cook down. Once this gets going really nicely, I'll show you guys. But I like this. This is really good for if you're going to do like a chicken fried steak, or you're going to make roasted vegetables, or you're just looking for some other type of, fat and oil into your diet because you're trying to break away from seed oils. Good recipe to make sure that you're not wasting things too, right? Like I said, everything from this chicken is going to be used. We got the skin going into our oil. We've got the bones going into a bone broth, and we've got the chicken going into a stew that we're going to eat off of, or a gumbo that we're going to eat off of for a couple days. So like, I love these types of recipes where I can get so much out of something. So I'm going to get this up to where it's really processing good for you guys, and then I'll show you an up close of what that's going to look like in the pan. See guys, so this is how it's going to look in your pan, and you're just going to kind of keep it at this consistency until all that water, and I started with about a cup of water, and this is the skin and the fat of about 8 nice sized chicken thighs. So, just kind of regulate and play with it and see what's ultimately going to make sense in the end. But, you're just going to kind of cook this down and render this down. You see some of the fat is already starting to come out here. And like I said, you're just going to kind of keep it at this kind of medium-low temperature. And just let it render down, kind of move it around, make sure things aren't sticking in place, make sure everything's kind of getting cooked at a good, even consistency. But yeah, so this is kind of where we'll keep it. And this usually, this process isn't extensively long. But, like I said, if you wanted to throw onions in at this point, you could. And then you could take the chicken skin and the onions when it's left over and, have a nice little, snack, or throw it in with some veggies or something like that. But like I said, we're just going to kind of let this go for a little while. And, when it really starts to turn into more of a grease, I'll come back and show you that part. It's really starting to cook down, but you can still see some of the water is in there. So we're going to keep going. So as this has been cooking down, I've just been kind of taking my spatula and, breaking the skins up. You can also start, when you start this process, if you wanted to, you could chop your skins up pretty small. Just depends on how much pre-work you want to do. So again, we're just going to kind of let this keep cooking down. I can still see there's some water at the sides. See, separating from the oil. So we'll just let this keep cooking down. And honestly, you're going to get to a point where these are like super crunchy, right? They've cooked down so much, they're almost like a crackling, if you will. So like I said, we're just going to kind of keep going with this, keep moving things around. And the next time I come back will be to the finished product. Okay, so now we're at the end. As you can see, these have browned up quite nicely. I've turned the heat off. And you're just going to kind of scrub any that might happen to stick to the bottom of your pan off. I'm going to let this cool just a little bit because I don't want to try to attempt to pour hot oil all over myself. But it's looking good. Okay, guys, this has cooled a little bit. I don't want it to cool too much because then it'll start to kind of congeal a little bit. So I'm going to take my larger pieces out, and see, they turned out quite nice. For people who love fried chicken skin, you're going to love this. Now, when I do my large butchers, and I have a lot of chicken that I'm putting up in the freezer or canning or whatever, I'll collect those skin and I'll just put them, you know, the skin and the excess fat and stuff, and I will actually just take them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and freeze them until I can render them down. Now, if I'm going to do a large batch, now mind you, I'm doing this to kind of get the base for my roux, for my gumbo. So if I was making a large batch of this, which I have made this in a larger batch, and I have canned it, and I have done things that would probably make people's heads spin with it. But if I was going to do that, then I would get my large, you know, slow cooker down, and I would put it on the counter, and I would put it at a low heat, and I would just kind of let it go all night and kind of keep checking it, kind of like I would do like with a roast overnight or something. But because I'm just trying to get a small amount, and I'm not looking to can a whole bunch of this, and this is going to be a base for a roux, we're fine to just take the little bit that we've got. So, let's see how cool this is. Not very. So I've got a jar. It's probably a larger jar than I need. And then I've got a funnel. And then I've got a filter. You're going to see a lot of these coffee filters around. So then you just take it and you pour it in. And you want to run it through the filter so you get all the little bits and chunks out. Like I said, this was only a small amount, and this was more to just kind of show you guys. The more skin that you have, right, of course, the more fat you're going to render down. It's an awesome way to season your cast iron too, just FYI. Like I said, I'm just trying to get a small amount of this, so that way I can use it for my roux, for my base, for my gumbo. When I have done large amounts of, the last time we butchered, I want to say we did about 100 of them on a day, and I canned about 40 of those and put them away. I pulled all the skin off of them. I let it render down all night. I ended up getting, I want to say, about 10 to 12 of, you know, the smaller jars that I could can and put up to use for different things. But this, of course, like I said, I was just doing this to show you guys this process, and as well to get my base for a roux. So anytime that you need a base or something that you're trying to look to get that chicken flavor in there, but you're not trying to add a whole bunch of chicken to it, or you want that skin flavor without the skin, this is a really good process. Like I said, when you got to the point where the chicken had cooked down a little bit, you could add some onions and veggies and stuff like that in there. You know, if you want to add celery, onion, etc. To add a little bit more flavor to it, you could have done that as well. This, of course, is technically not shelf stable because we did start with the waters. So what I'll actually do for this until I'm ready to make the gumbo, I'll put my top on it and I'll just put it in the fridge, and then I'll come back, I'll pour it in the pot for my gumbo, and then I'll add my flour to it and a little butter and start to make my roux. So I think this is kind of an interesting, way of doing this, another way of getting an oil or a fat into our diet. It's not a seed oil or something like that. If you ever fry potatoes in this, phenomenal too. So I enjoy this process. You can do it on as large or as small a scale as you want, but I did want to show this to you guys since I was going to be doing this today to get that base. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I will put kind of a short snippet of the recipe below, right? So you've got something that you can refer back to on paper as well. So have a nice evening, guys, and I'll see you next time.